The biggest surprise to come out of the 2.4 special program for Honkai Star Rail is not that Yunli doesn't wear shoes or that the J in xianzhou's name is a chili. It's actually the announcement that there will be a collaboration event between Hoyoverse and Fate Stay Night coming out next year. All we know about it is that there is a collaboration and no details have been released. But being an avid connoisseur of gacha games, this announcement has left me pleasantly hyped, but at the same time, a little worried. So in this video, we are going to put lore to the side for one moment and discuss whether this collaboration is a good or bad thing. Before we explore this in more detail, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. Collaborations, especially in gacha games, isn't anything new. 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross had numerous collaborations such as with Attack on Titan, Tensura, and even Stranger Things. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius on the other hand has done them with Nier Automata, Xenogears, and weirdly enough, Katy Perry and Ariana Grande. Collabs aren't just a way for the players to have characters from their favorite media join them in-game, but also as a way for the developers to pay homage to their favorite things or inspirations. So with Hoyoverse announcing a collab with Fate Stay Night, one has to wonder how it might turn out. Will it be an homage to one of the developers' favorite IPs, or will it be just a blatant cash grab? Let's start off on a positive note. Collabs do have some benefits when done right. The simplest of which is the fact that among the Star Rail fans, there are undoubtedly fans of the Fate series as well. Unlimited Bladeworks is likely the most recognizable in the franchise, though personally I am partial to Fate Zero myself. In any case, I'm sure if done right, many fans of both series would get a huge kick out of seeing the characters from the Fate series appear in Honkai Star Rail. I can't imagine the level of hype it will reach if we get playable characters, events, and maybe even a self-contained story. It also gives me an excuse to actually talk about anime, and I've just been looking for an excuse to do so on this channel. On the flip side, those who aren't familiar with the series but play the game will also be introduced to it. Overall, it results in a net positive. Players who are familiar with the franchise get to see and perhaps even summon their favorite Fate characters, while those unfamiliar may get an introduction to the series that kicks off an entirely new obsession. Another positive to Hoyoverse doing this is that it opens up a lot of interesting possibilities moving forward. Sure, right now we have a Fate Stay Night collab, but will it really stop there? Maybe if it works out, we might get one with Mushoku Tensei, One Piece, or Tensura, and perhaps even collabs with other games like Monster Hunter or Devil May Cry. This might open the floodgates to a whole new way of experiencing the game through collabs with different IPs. One other good thing about this is that it takes much less time, or at least I assume it does, for some of these characters to be brought to the game. Sure, you still need to program the character and create the models and everything, but you won't need to do it from scratch. Any IP you take will come from an already established franchise, so there's little conceptual work that needs to be done. This means characters can be brought in faster than if you made them from zero. Last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, collabs just have the potential to bring in new players. People who haven't tried the game for one reason or another will now have an incentive to at least try it because of the collab. Someone who plays Nier Automata, for example, might not be too interested in Honkai Star Rail, but if 2B were to appear in-game, then they might actually give the game a shot. Now, despite all these positives, this wouldn't be a fair discussion if I didn't include the negatives as well. One such negative is the loss of immersion. The minute characters that technically don't belong there come into the picture, you kinda lose some sense of a contained story. Up till this point, everything that has happened in Honkai Star Rail has happened to the characters in its own franchise. Yes, I know Welt came from Honkai Impact, but even then, you could argue it's within the same universe. It's when characters like Iron Man or Thor or something start appearing that it might feel a little out of place. For some players, I'm not saying everyone will see it this way, it might ruin the immersion because they might want to just focus on the characters in Star Rail. In addition, the story related to these characters coming over has to be self-contained or practically filler level. Otherwise, it raises too many questions about how the in-game universe might work. Under the Fate series, would the characters be transported over due to the Holy Grail? Are the Counter Guardians part of it? Does magic exist in Star Rail, or would we see historical figures from Star Rail's universe? It creates a lot of questions. Now, I know this is kind of a nitpick. We don't have to look at it in too deep a detail and compare everything. Suspension of disbelief can do its job here, but it's nonetheless still one potential negative. Moving away from lore reasons, there is a mechanical or design issue as well. None of these characters can be too strong or even meta. The reason behind this is because most of the time, collabs such as this one are often one-off. It's unlikely we will see any reruns of characters offered up during the collab. If they were to make a support on the level of Ruan Mei or a DPS on the level of Acheron, any future build video would constantly suggest the use of these characters that not everyone might have. It's kind of like the festering desire in Genshin. If you missed out on it, you're unlikely to ever get it, but even today, it remains a core part of many builds. Again, this really only affects a small group. Some of you might not even care if these characters are meta or even good, and those that summon for them are just fans of the Fate series. This alone is not a compelling enough reason to argue we shouldn't have the collab at all, but I still thought to bring it up. Now, while we have not seen a collab done for Genshin, Star Rail, or Zenless before, Honkai Impact has actually done a collab with Evangelion. As far as I know, it was generally well received, though I can't speak too much about how good the characters, events, or story was, as I didn't play it personally. I also found that the collab was a one-time thing, so what I said earlier about no reruns may likely end up being the same here. If anyone has experienced the collab firsthand, do share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe what I mentioned as negatives aren't even that much of a concern. In any case, I didn't personally play Honkai Impact, but I have seen collabs handled rather poorly in other gacha games, which is why I thought of discussing this in a video. Of course, we can't directly compare them, but again, it's just food for thought. Now, despite what I mentioned here, just keep in mind that there are no details on what this collab may entail. We might get a full-blown content release with story, new characters and events, or it could just be one or two skins. Saber could be Yun Li, Ilya can be Clara, and Gilgamesh might be Aventurine, because of that one cutscene with the coins. But we just don't know, so judging it too harshly is a bit premature. All I'm trying to do is just weigh the possible pros and cons here and play devil's advocate as fairly as I can. I mean, there's no guarantee that we're even getting it. Remember the Genshin anime? On top of that, most of the examples of how other collabs are handled, I've kind of taken from other gacha games, and Hoyoverse may just be different. So just take the points I bring up here with a grain of salt. Me personally, while I have my reservations, I am very much hyped with what we might get. Ilya and Heracles skin for Clara and Svarog, summonable Gilgamesh or Saber, crossover stories, yes to all of the above. Let me know what your thoughts are about this announcement. Are you hyped for the collab, or are you understandably worried, or maybe this makes no difference to you one way or another? Let me know in the comments. I'll end the video here. If you found the video interesting, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.